Dr. Martin Luther King once said, "Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter." The year was 1968. Dr. King had been assassinated. There was civic unrest around the country. Then on October 16, Tommie Smith and John Carlos finished first and third in the 200 meters at the Olympics in Mexico City. As their national anthem played, they stood atop the podium, shoes off, wearing black socks, and raised gloved fists above their head. To this day, it is one of the most iconic moments in Olympic history. But both men have paid a very heavy price for standing up for a cause they believed in. He's Dr. Tommie Smith now, and thanks for joining us from your home in Atlanta. I'd like to start with your thoughts about the social justice movement that we're seeing across the country right now.
It's very sad, but sometimes things happen this way for things to move. It's too bad that democracy had to have lives lost just to pursue what was guaranteed by the Constitution. It's sad, and my condolences, of course, goes to all the families that has been saddened by the loss due to the lack of love and affection by those who are in power to change things.
Dr. King also said the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort, but where he stands in times of challenge and controversy. Was it difficult for you, sir, at that moment when you had won that race to make that decision to make that protest, or were you driven to win that race so that you could take that stand?
It comes from the heart, Jack. You know, things of moving forward, things of love that affects your future. It comes from the heart. You can't go out and throw a rock and expect for you to hit exactly what you're aiming at. But at least you are doing something to make things happen. Of course, we did not throw a rock and hide our hand. We stood with firm affirmation of what we believed in, and that is the freedom. That is a cry for freedom. And I've used that before, that I stood on that victory stand to alleviate pressures that I had from childhood, my family all the way through. And for those, especially those who had no voice, I stood not on the platform to show what I had done, but that I had something else to give, because I was put on that platform by higher force, and I used that higher force to maintain the validity of being or doing something that would associate the need to move forward. And I thank you young folks out there. Congratulations to you. You're picking up the baton, which a lot of people dropped, and you're moving it forward. I like that, and I stand behind you 100%.
Dr. Smith, you were kicked out of the Olympics, paid such a heavy price, cost you for taking the stand that you took. It brought about death threats to you and your family, homelessness. Most people ask, what if, when they don't do something? Have you ever asked yourself, what if you hadn't raised your fist on that podium? What would life be like today?
You know, if I could go hindsight and live those times, I would not change it, Jack. No way, no way. I was raised by a mother and father who believed in the future, but that future only comes by your secular belief, and you're moving forward because of that belief. Raising 12 children is not the easiest thing to do. How many moms and dads have raised 12 kids in a little shotgun house in the backwoods of Texas, then moved to Oklahoma, California in the early 50s. No regrets. No seizures of thought, only the movement forward that will take sacrifices. And that's what the young folks and us old folks too are doing in the streets now. We're not going to take the pressure off.
I know there was talk of a boycott before the Olympics, but you chose to compete. How much pressure was there when you took that stand to make a statement, to do what you did?
You know, Jack, the pressure wasn't taking a stand. The pressure was getting to the stand. Yeah. Do those plethora of races that you have to win. And when you're running against world-class people already months before you got there, just to get there, yeah, it was pressure.
We learn from history. It's so important that we do. What is the lesson you hope athletes, both black and white, learn from you?
Use words that brings them together, not separate, and then apologize for it. No. Think first before you act, then move with the justice of freedom. Move with the idea of we are one, let's move in the same area. We might believe in different things, but we still are going to work. Work, W-R-K, work. There are those who say, I don't see color. Well, I looking at a monitor now, and I see color, but I have to work in spite of color. You have to work through that. I don't think God wants us, because there is a difference in our hue, to make a difference in our hearts because we like white better than we like black. You have to mingle the heart, mingle the soul, move together proactively by the scriptural reference of life. Not doubting yourself. Young folks, don't doubt yourself. Think before you act. Then act with pride, justice, freedom, and conscience. You'll be all right.
That is great advice. I am sure this sounds familiar to you. IOC President Thomas Bach says the political neutrality of the Olympics will be undercut if an athlete takes a knee on the medal podium. He doesn't want any protests. Would you be disappointed if you don't see one in Tokyo, especially with what we're seeing across the world right now?
I'll be disappointed if I see something and think that someone else told them to do it because they was on that platform, do it for them. No, it has to come from their heart to do it for the people. You know, sacrifice is something that a lot of people don't have a heart for because they cannot see the future or understand what has happened in the past. A plethora of people have died so I could be there, or so you athletes could be there. Don't justify your position as I did it because I am great. You were great before you got on the stand, before you played football. You just didn't have a platform to show it. Use my ability to understand the necessity of what has to be done, and you're in that position to do it. Do it if you believe in it, but have a background of why you think it needs to be done. When I walked up on that victory stand, I was rather, like I said earlier, a love-hate. I was hurt because I had to prove, take my life, put it so people can see the validity of love, not hate. That wasn't a hate crime that I committed, but the institution pushed it to that point. And I accepted it all because I know that God was going to pull me through. Try it without him. You'll see your failure.
If any athlete chooses to do it, do you think we're past the point where they have to face the same wrath you did?
I think the world moves in different. The world has moved to a different level. The sacrifice. Who knows what will happen? If we knew what was going to happen because of what we did, I think it wouldn't be a fair association to the actual sacrifice that you were making. No, you have to take that chance and move because it's from your heart that you're doing it. Don't get up there and think you're up there because you're bad or you're doing something that somebody else could not do. That's not the point. It's you, it's your heart, it's your soul that are giving to the society to create a cultural movement. And you have to have background scriptural reference and the verbiage to understand why you're doing it. And now I can explain why I did it, and then you can accept it or not. 1968, I had no time to do anything. I did what my heart told me to do, and now we're talking about it, especially the documentary that's coming up with Drawn Arms just in a few months. It was supposed to come out last year just before the Olympic Games in Tokyo. It didn't happen, but it's going to happen, and you'll see what I'm talking about in person, and it's done from an artistic view of Tommie Smith. I can't wait to see it.
So Charles Barkley famously said he's not a role model, but athletes have powerful voices even when they don't speak, like you did. How important is it in these times that prominent athletes like LeBron James and Colin Kaepernick continue to take stands?
I think it's very important because the young folks are looking for someone to stand up to or even stand with. As long as we have those proactive individuals who are in position where the younger generation might quietly say, I sure want to be like Kaepernick, or I sure wish I had the money that LeBron have. they have to work for it. And as long as these people keep talking with a proactive measure, including the young people with a message in their words, it's going to be fine. And I applaud those people with a soul of love to be out front so these young folks can see you don't have to kill to love.
Dr. Smith, we've seen commissioners of all the professional sports release statements. We've seen businesses do that. Are you satisfied with statements?
I'm more satisfied than before, of course, because it's said now that we moved too fast. We didn't think. Well, sorry about that weak brain, but I think to come into reality now that the Constitution provides an avenue for you to speak freely. Then when you speak, be satisfied with what you've done, smile, and understand that there might be a repercussion. You have to stand under the. We're not going to move forward if everybody wants to sit under the table with big feet and eat all the food and look at everybody else and say, oh, do you have any more? Use your own creation of moving forward, being full of what you have to give, not take everything. Taking it. Let's go to a conversation, for instance, since you brought it up, Jack. Be honest in your conversation. Be transparent in your belief as you explain it to others. Understand that others need to communicate as well. So give credence to those who you are talking to or passing on a message. The conversational attitude of what is on your mind. You talk to me. I need to hear you. One of my problems, I hadn't had many of them going through the American system, that didn't liberate my tongue because I was afraid to say what was on my heart. I guess Mexico 1968 showed my heart, and I was blessed not to have to say anything. I think those who believe what I stood for understand, and they talked for me. And I appreciate your understanding of my going forward. So be not creative in what you have to say. Be honest in what you have to say, and let the others also show that honesty through conversation, black and white and other colors included. We need the total honesty of everyone. Now, it seems simple, and it is simple. Don't throw a rock and hide your hand. If you have to throw a rock, make sure that you're riding it as it goes through the air.
Do you feel like we're in a better place, or we've been standing in quicksand since 1968?
No, we haven't been standing in quicksand. Too many people have sacrificed and going on before us. I think the movement has slowed down. Prior to '68, we had, and those of you who are old enough know the murders and the assassination that we had coming into the '60s, during the '60s, into the '70s. That's a platform. We should use that platform to move forward. Ideally, it can be done, and it is being sought after. But we have to keep the pressure on to keep the momentum moving. And there's a lot of things that have happened. A lot of people have died. There will be wars, many wars, and we have to fight with the attitude of success, not just because it feels good to be in a loud crowd.
In 2019, you were inducted into the U.S. Olympic Hall of Fame. Any explanation why it took so long for you to receive that honor?
Well, let me say, get a little bit real quick background, and then I'll let those who are hearing this make their own decision. I'm the only man in the history of track and field, man or woman, to hold 11 world records simultaneously. I broke the 200-meter barrier for the first time in those Olympic Games. And there was a gold medal while I won that place to place me on the victory stand. Now, you make the decision.
What emotions hit you when you see statues that are made in your honor now?
I got to pinch myself to make sure that I'm still living. Usually when I view a statue, the people that is represented are dead. And I smile and thank God that you let me see what others have understood about my life. Hopefully that it was a positive gesture that people will view and not something to make a whole lot of money. Well, because that surely wasn't the truth.
Last thing, Dr. Smith, before we let you go, and thank you again for your time and great wisdom here. And I know you touched on it a little bit, but advice that you would give anyone who's getting ready to try and take a stand for something they believe in.
Believe it, first of all. Believe it. And have a background on why the reasoning is positive, and then move forward. You will have followers. You also will have interpretations of bad within that group of good. But if you believe it from the heart, you cannot fail. But you must have the attitude of moving forward without hurting others.